Well, to further our discussion on that story, we're now joined by Mr. Kamel Wazni. He is a political analyst joining us via satellite from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Sir, welcome to the program. We're seeing images of these Al-Quds Day demonstrations taking place all over the world. First of all, I'd like your opinion about the significance of these demonstrations.
Well, obviously, this is a significant day, and this is a promise given by the late Ayatollah Khomeini. Basically, the Quds belong to its people, and Israel is an occupation, and Israeli occupation must end, and the Palestinian land should go back to the Palestinian. Today, we see the statement that was given by the late Imam Khomeini resonate with the Muslim community, and we see every year this promise being cherished by the followers of the belief that Israel is a threat to the region, and that threat must end. Basically, the occupation of the Palestinian land that imposed the Western world well on the people of the Palestine and put an Israeli immigrant Jews from all over the world into a land that does not belong to them at the expense of deportation and confiscating of land. This is a response today where people from around the globe raise voice, honoring and cherishing the promise that the right has to go back to its people. And today we see that exhibit in Egypt, in Lebanon, in a few hours, in Syria, in Tehran, in Iraq, around the globe, in the Western world. Even there is demonstrator, and this is to tell the world that Palestine is not forgotten. The Israeli do not belong to that place. Even if they use terror and confiscating, and they use the umbrella of the America and the Western world to occupy the land, this must end.
Mr. Wazni, Al-Quds Day basically comprises of two main ideas. One, supporting the Palestinian cause, and two, condemning the Israeli regime's actions, its aggression against the Palestinian people, and also the occupation of Palestine. Can you elaborate on each of those thoughts?
Well, it's very true. The Israeli, since they came and occupied Palestine, for 63 years, the Palestinians been suffering at the hand of the Israeli. They took their land, they tortured them, they killed their children, they killed their women, they deported them, continue the process of evacuating the Palestinian land, building the settlement. This must end. So obviously here we have to stand with the Palestinian people, those who actually been deprived their basic humanitarian right to live in a peaceful, meaningful way in their homeland. In this world, in this time, we cannot accept, neither now, neither before, that somebody evicted from his home because somebody is strong and powerful, wanted to throw him out and build a Jewish state. This is not acceptable, even if the United States given the money and the coverage for this act for the Israeli. It's for that, it's a duty for the world, the humane world, to support the Palestinian, to go back to their land, and basically to condemn the terrorist act that is committed by the Israeli, by their occupation, and by they continue terrorizing the people of Palestine. Those two concepts has to be made an issue and an awareness to everybody around the globe, and it's a message for actually for the Arab and the Muslim world, that they have to unite and remember that Israel is the enemy. and Israel is the one who occupying a land that does not belong to them, and they should, if they have to fight, they should fight the Israeli and unify against the Israeli, and not to cause friction within the Arab and the Muslim community. And this should be very clear. And today, the demonstration through the Arab world and the Muslim world, you can see there is a good shift this year with the coming of Egypt and distance itself from the 30-year history where Mubarak actually catered to the Israeli and did everything the Israeli wanted. And he was just a president who catered to the Israeli, but we can see the people, all-hearted, they were against the Israeli, and that's why you can see today a 1 million-man march in Egypt demanding the close down of the Israeli embassy, as the Iranian Revolution did when Imam Khomeini came to power in 1979. He actually closed down the Israeli embassy and kicked out the Israeli embassy and established the first Palestinian embassy. Today, the Egyptian has waken up, kicked their leader who was a traitor, and assumed the identity of the resistance against the Israeli. And this is, you can see more of that until the day when we can see Palestine is liberated. I think today you will hear the same statement from the leader of the resistance in Lebanon, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, when he will address the people at 5 o'clock, where he can emphasize that the resistance in Lebanon, along with cooperation with other resistance, they are ready to win. The time is right to liberate the Palestinian land.
Mr. Wazni, a lot has happened in the past 2 or 3 years. Number one, the Israeli aggression on Gaza at the turn of 2008. Number two, the incident with the Mavi Marmara, where 9 Turkish activists were killed by Israeli commandos in international waters, which also saw a lot of international condemnation. And also, just recently, in 2011, the fall of Hosni Mubarak, one of Israel's staunchest and biggest allies in the region. It's safe to say that things aren't the same for the Israeli regime anymore.
Oh, absolutely, and this has actually been emphasized by even the Israelis themselves. They said the time when they had their friends in power is coming to an end. They had Hosni Mubarak very long time, the ex-president of Egypt. He was a puppet of the Israeli and the American, and he actually did everything that was asked by the Israeli and the American until his time has expired, and we saw what happened to his fate. He was a traitor, and he's now being prosecuted as a traitor who actually did not hold the constitution that to protect the people of Egypt. Today, the Israeli facing a different dimension. Today, they didn't have to worry about their open borders with Egypt. Today, they have to worry, and the Egyptian actually being mobilized against the Israeli and against the American. And a week ago, there was a statement by the Secretary of State of the United States, Hillary Clinton, actually asking the Egyptian official to calm down the rhetoric against the American. There's such hatred now is being felt within the Egyptian community against not only the Israeli, it's against the American. Formal request by the State Department to in their addressing this issue to calm down, because they trying to say we are actually want to work with the Egyptian people, but the Egyptian people are smart enough to know that the United States have used the Egyptian people for a very long time. That actually, those two events in Egypt was a major issue for the, redrawing the map of the region. The Israeli never really cared about that front, the southern front. It's only cared about the northern front with Lebanon. And Lebanon, we all know that it taught the Israeli a very a good lesson, and there is more lesson to be taught in the coming days, weeks, and years, because the resistance getting a lot stronger in Lebanon, and really, in my estimate, as we heard it from the leader of the resistance, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the next time he said they cannot give the order to go into occupied Palestine. The second things, when it comes to the Turkish, and yes, the Turkish actually did some good things, courageous things, but still it's not enough and did not go far enough. And I think today we call on the Prime Minister of Turkey, Erdogan, not to take into the apology, because the apology will not, an apology from the Israeli would not serve the Palestinian people, and will not lift the siege on Gaza, and would not liberate Palestine. I think the rhetoric that exhibited by the leaders of Turkey need to be redirected in a different way, and to be actually more forceful in calling for not only an apology, because an apology would not lift the siege from Gaza, and an apology would not give back the Palestinians their land. If they want to be part of the resistance and be champion of the resistance in this Muslim world, this is need more steps, stronger steps, more than one they've been mentioned by Mr. Erdogan and by Mr. Oglu and by the President of Turkey. We need action, we need things on the ground, we need this cut in relationship between Turkey and Israel, those economic ties and those military ties, because an apology would not suffice. The third, the occupation of Gaza, the third one that you mentioned, actually, this is still a shame on the national and the global community to keep a whole area still under siege, where the West and the American always talk about the human rights. Have they forgotten about the fate of the Palestinian people? There's children, women, civilian, been neglected for a very long time. They're not allowed to build their homes. They're not allowed to have a shelter. They're not allowed to have their basic medicine. What are we talking about here? When the American, they talk, are the Palestinian child should not deserve a school, a classroom, a basic health care? The Israeli are preventing all this from the Palestinian, and we have to ask Mrs. Clinton when she will see the whole picture. But we know for sure you really cannot count on the American, you cannot count on the Western world. You have to be ready to defend yourself, and those demonstrations that is taking place throughout the Muslim and Arab world and the rest of the world, it's a true message that the time has changed.
Mr. Wazni, I'm going to ask for a different perspective on the Al-Quds Day demonstrations. How do you think the Israeli regime feels about this day? What they think when they see these demonstrations taking place worldwide? I was just reading some breaking news off of our website that stated that the Israeli regime had prevented the Al-Quds demonstrations from taking place in Al-Quds itself. In the lead up to this day, they also increased their aggression on the Gaza Strip, maybe in an attempt to divert attention from these demonstrations?
Oh, obviously the Israeli has been terrified for the changes that is taking place in the Arab and the Muslim world, and anything that is negative toward them, that bring the facts and the true story, it really bothered the Israeli, and for a very long time they lied and lied and lied. They gave is actually a story that was full of lies. That's how they wrote the history in the United States, and to force the American children to read a false history and try to be present themselves as a victim. Today, the real world, the true world, have seen exactly how the Israeli are treating the Palestinian, and how the world community can change their mind about what's happening in Palestine. So for sure the Israeli, they're not very happy, and not to stop here, that doesn't really bother them. They're not happy, but they know the force of resistance around the Muslim world is getting stronger. And now when you have the leaders of the resistance put a threat, they know they can hold that threat, and they can carry their words and action. And that's why the Israeli, they know that history is not going to be on their side, because they've been an occupier, and every criminal has his day, and the times will be right when the Palestinian will go back to their country and to their states. And today, in my estimate, the preparation on the ground, it's actually coming to be very strong, to make the Israeli are very nervous, and make him start thinking to find another place than the one they occupying today.
Mr. Wazni, you mentioned the Gaza siege and the hardships that the Palestinians in Gaza have to face over the years of being under an Israeli embargo. Also, let's not forget the issue of settlements. A large number of settlements are also to be constructed, mainly in Al-Quds. Now, do you think that the international community has done enough in the face of Israel's flagrant violations of international norms and international law?
We have to go and remember one fact, that all these settlement was built by American guarantee loans. I repeat, all these settlements are built with American guarantee loans. From the days they started to build the settlement, it's the Western world that gave guarantee loans to build these settlements, and the acceleration of these settlements were built also with guarantee loan. Actually, large part of the Israeli national debt, it belonged to the U.S., and half of it was given by the United States to the Israeli as guarantee loan, and not expected to be returned by the Israeli. So if they're the one who gave them the money to build this settlement, do you think they are fair about the fate of the region, or they care about the fate of the region? All they care as their policies is to guarantee the region, and to keep this region divided, so that the Western world can capitalize on that divide and will keep manipulation and stealing our resources. We have to remember that the American also try to monopolize on the Israeli existence or Israeli occupation of Palestine, because they want to keep the region very weak, and always threat us with Israel if some country decided to voice its voice of discontent against the Israeli or against the American presence. That's why the American been living on our resources in the region, benefiting from the regime that they built in Israel to act on their behalf. So When you talk about the international community, it's a propaganda, did not serve justice or peace, and the American been harming both.
Mr. Wazni, we're getting images from across the world, Pakistan, Iraq, Egypt, the Gaza Strip. Also reports of demonstrations being planned in France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands. Also, demonstrations had taken place earlier on in the week in London as well. Also in Ottawa in Canada, rallies are scheduled to be taking place on Saturday. Now, taking into effect all of this, of course, let's not forget the PA September date with the United Nations, taking their case for their independent state to the United Nations. How much will all this international support that we're seeing now increase the Palestinians' drive and resolve to move ahead with this?
I think that if you take it to the General Council, you have a strong case for the Palestinian, but you have to remember that the Palestinian, they have to believe in their cause and in their case. What I mean by the Palestinian, I'm talking about the leadership, the PLO, because the PLO been somehow went into negotiation with the Israeli. That negotiation did not help the Palestinian cause, and it did not help the Palestinian. The fact that Israel came into Palestine by occupation, by force, by eviction of the Palestinian, the Palestinian should know that the Israeli will not leave by negotiation. This is what a point I remember in 1982 when the Israeli came into Lebanon. And as I remember, the leader of the resistance at that time, Sayyid Abbas al-Musawi, in a major piece when he talked about, he refused the decision of negotiation with the Israeli to withdraw from Lebanon based on on Resolution 425, which was the Israeli will leave Lebanon, but they have to arrange for negotiation, then an exit from Lebanon. The early leaders of the resistance at that time, Sayyid Abbas, Sayyid Hassan, those in the early days, they rejected totally any negotiation, and they believed that as the Israeli came by force into Lebanon, they have to get out by force out of Lebanon. And at that time, they didn't have much in their hand except their faith and their belief that they have to do their duties, and victory, it's basically, if they believe in God, they have to do their duty and continue the fight. And that's basically how they draw the early map of the confrontation. But you have to look between 82 and 2000, 18 years of resistance, it pay off. The Israeli were kicked out of Lebanon, not by negotiation, by force. I think the Palestinians have to go back to where and learn from the experience of the resistance of Lebanon. You cannot really count on the UN General Assembly. You cannot count on the UN Security Council. You cannot really count on the United States. You cannot count on any of these people. You have to go back, and what is taken by force has to be retaken by force, and the resistance, it should be the option that be utilized to regain the right, because Israel does not believe there should be any Palestinian on Palestinian land, and that's why they called for a Jewish state. A Jewish state mean what? A Jewish state that means the Palestinians should not be in the West Bank, the Palestinians should not be in the land of 48, the Palestinians should not be any place within the vicinity of what they called Israel. That's what the Israelis are doing and planning for a very long time. those resolutions at the UN, even it's good to get backing from the international community, but you shouldn't abandon your strong case, which is the resistance. It paid off in Lebanon, it should pay off in Palestine. The Palestinians have to understand that, the PLO has to understand that, because those in Israel at the leadership, they think they're superior, and that's how they thought in Lebanon. But days in Lebanon prove otherwise, and they were not more than cowards who ran into the night to escape the resistance, which exhibited a great victory against all the odds. But they believed that they have to do their duty, and they believed in God, and they believed that victory will be on their side, and patience was actually the main component of their fight.
Mr. Wazni, stay with us. Let's take a look at some images of incidents taking place in Bahrain. This is latest footage we've got from Malakia, Bahrain. There also Bahraini demonstrators are rallying in support of Al-Quds Day, supporting the Palestinian cause. Now, earlier in the day, demonstrators there burned Israeli flags during their International Quds Day demonstrations. Several protesters were reportedly injured as regime forces fired tear gas to disperse the crowds that had stayed in the streets from Thursday evening, from last night until early Friday, early this morning. The demonstrators are protesting the regime's ban of the Al-Quds Day celebration. That rally has been banned in Bahrain for a second year in a row. And anti-regime protesters say that the regime, the Al Khalifa regime, places the ban on the Al-Quds Day demonstrations in order to prevent that rally from turning into an anti-regime demonstration. Also, we know since the beginning of the revolution in Bahrain, large numbers of anti-government protesters have poured into the streets across the nation to demand more rights, freedom, and wide-ranging political reforms. Back to Mr. Wazni now. Mr. Wazni, there is a certain significance to this Al-Quds demonstrations as it's taking place simultaneously with the uprisings taking place in the Middle East and North Africa, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just to comment a little bit about the Bahraini people. These Bahraini people, they have their own cases. They have to get their, first of all, they have to get their participation in government. Should be no discrimination against the people of Bahraini, and the Bahraini should not be the Bahraini government, and the monarchy should not be continue to be puppet of the American and the Israeli. There is nothing wrong with burning the Israeli flag. Israel has occupied a Muslim land, and if these demonstrators exhibit their anger against the Israeli, the monarchy should not be upset and condemning this action. But obviously, the monarchy and the government of Bahrain has different calculation, and they have been wrong on many issues. And it's time for the Bahraini government and the monarchy to know that dictatorship, even if they last for a period of time, their fate is known. They have to look just what happened to Gaddafi, Zayn al-Abidin in Tunisia. Their fate is not going to be better than those if they continue their process of repression against the Bahraini people. The American and the Western power and their alliance is not going to protect them for a very long time. Yes, they are strong now, but that will end at one time, because those people who are demonstrating, they just have a just cause, and that just cause will take them with patience and with dependent on God to the ultimate goal, giving the people of Bahrain equal sharing, a democratic system that believe in the person and would not actually mistreat the population with unjust action. The revolution that is taking places in throughout the Muslim world is actually a wake-up call, and you can see even the leaders of some of these countries, sometimes there's skirmish between them, but the people at the same level, they all have that sentiment that Israel is the enemy and Palestine has to be liberated, and the Muslim and Arab world have to be united in that cause, and there is no division whatsoever between the people, despite the Western manipulation of some country where they try to put a wedge and divide between these countries.
Mr. Wazni, let's turn our attention to Egypt now. After the revolution, various research polls showed that Egyptian ties with the Israeli regime. Now those sentiments have clearly turned into strong and solid and tangible demands. First of all, do you think that that will basically culminate, that relations between Egypt and Israel might be cut off? And if that happens, what ripple effects will that have for the region, specifically for the Israeli regime?
Well, I mean, we have been reading these report how the Israeli view this, and they very worry about the changes that is taking place in Egypt, and they are terrified, and they think the time they had their honeymoon with Egypt is over. Today, the true feeling of the Egyptian come out. They don't want any peace treaty with the Israeli. They don't want any Israeli whatsoever in the Egyptian land. That's why you see those demonstrators, as you can see on your screen. They want to have no connection whatsoever with the Israeli, and they want to reconnect their bridges with the Muslim world, with the Arab world, and with the resistance. You have to remember that Egypt at one time was the leader of the resistance throughout the Arab world. People looked for Egypt for leadership. When Israel and Egypt signed that treaty, Egypt lost that leadership. And now the people wanted to be again part of the resistance, wanted to be a part of the decision making, how to liberate Palestine and how to drive the Israeli out of Palestine, to drive them back to where they come from. If they came from Ukraine, or came from the Soviet Union, or they came from Eastern Europe, or they came from the United States or France or England, they should go back to where they came from, because you cannot come from any of these countries and come and confiscate a Palestinian land and say, this is my town, this is my identity, this is where I belong. No, this is not the case. Today, the Egyptians have joined the rally and the cause, and that's very good days for the resistance, and it's very bad days for the Israeli, and the Israeli noticed it, took a big notice of it, and acknowledged it, and they are afraid of the fate that will come one day, where they have to give back the land they occupied from the Palestinians.
Mr. Kamel Wazni, political analyst from Beirut, I'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us here on Press TV.